Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the nettouch.com screencast of the week. I'm Jeffrey Way. Before we begin, let me give you just a quick overview of this screencast. A few days ago, I was working on my own personal site, and I wanted to have a way to import all of the screencasts from NetTouch into my own sites using RSS. But we use blip.tv as our host. They have kind of an interesting RSS feed that made it a bit more difficult. So using SimplePie, I was working on a class, and I decided, hey, that would be a great tutorial to show people how they can do this with any site. Well, that was a couple days ago, and stupid Chris beat me to it and created a SimplePie tutorial. Luckily, they aren't going to overlap, but just so you guys don't think I'm copying them, it's just a complete coincidence. And actually, it's perfect because his screencast does a really good job of covering the basics of exactly how to import even multiple RSS feeds in. So I'm going to take that one step further, and we're going to actually build our own class to grab those custom tags. So let's go ahead and close that out. Good screencast, Chris. So let me show you, this isn't exactly what I'm doing for my site, but I created a quick example to show you how you could use it. So here's our sample. It's pulling in the latest 20 screencasts from our NetTouch video feed from blip.tv. If you see here, don't worry about these two images. It's kind of this weird issue where somebody had to send me a backup of one of our videos that we lost, and I guess the little thumbnail got screwed up, but that has nothing to do with this. And so let's say we want to watch jQuery plugin. I can click on that right here. It creates a little video pop-up, and we can watch it. Hello, everyone. There you go. Close that out, and let's say we want to watch something else. It opens it up. Okay, and all of this is using SimplePie and a bit of jQuery for fun. All right, so let me show you how I built this. So our first step is to download SimplePie, of course. So let's click on the download link. Go to simplepie.org. Click download, and let's just give that a moment. We're going to save that to the desktop. Okay, let's close this out, and here's our file. Let's extract it. And some of you guys that follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/nettouch, I was mentioning that I'm going to start creating a web dev folder because so many of these files I lose, and I end up having to download them 5 and 6 times because I import them into a project and I just completely forget. So I'm day one of building my web dev folder, so I will hold on to that. And if we open this up, we have a demo and the license and a compatibility test. Realistically, the only file we need right here is simplepie.inc or inc, however you want to pronounce it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And let's go ahead and create a new project. So I'm going to go into running PHP. I'm going to create a new folder. Here's just a little template backup. So we'll rename that to blip SimplePie tut. Okay, and let's open that up. And let's create a new folder. Actually, first, let's copy those and bring them out. Okay. I'll go over each of these files, but most of them are just default files. Let's create a new folder called includes. And we are going to bring SimplePie in. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to use my code editor of choice today, and it's Aptana, and I'm going to import a existing project. So let's go ahead and browse to... Where is this stored? Websites, www. There we go. Finish. And now we have access to our files. Okay, so this is kind of the standard template that I use for each new file. Import IE6. Those of you guys that watch my screencast know I use this. Import a blank default.css and my modified version of Eric Meyer's reset. I'm not going to use a reset for this one because it's just not necessary. So let's get rid of that. And we are ready to begin. So this is PHP. At the very top, I'm going to add our information that will import SimplePie. PHP, and we're going to require, and it's in our includes folder, and it's simplepie.inc. simplepie.inc. Okay. So next we need to create a new feed. So I'm going to do feed, and that's going to be equal to a new SimplePie class. If any of this, I'm going to be moving a little bit quicker, but if any of this is blurry to you, which is great, go and watch Chris's screencast because he goes over all of this and he does a very good job. So we're going to pass in a few methods. So we're going to do feed, and we need to set feed URL. And I'm going to explain each of these to you shortly, but for now I'll just leave it blank. Next we need set item class. Once again, I'll explain exactly why. We want to cache the videos that we return, and I believe caching is enabled by default, but just in case it isn't, you know, I'm not a SimplePie genius, but just in case it isn't, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and make sure it's enabled. And we need to set the duration, so we can do set cache duration, I believe, and this is set in seconds, so I'm going to do 3600. That should be just fine. What is that, an hour? And then next we will do the location. Where is our cache folder? So we need to do set cache location and pass in a path. So it's going to be a folder called cache. Okay. Next we need to init. So this kind of gets the ball rolling. It runs the when the class is instantiated, it runs the method that gets everything moving. And then finally, this is just something you should do every time you use SimplePie, and you do handle content type. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and create our cache folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, and we're just going to call it cache. And we need to make sure that we have the proper permissions. And I believe with Windows, that's done by default, but if you're doing this on your server, usually in your FTP client, you can just right-click and set permissions and make sure that it allows writing. Okay. So first, let's go ahead and find what our feed URL is. Now, typically when working with SimplePie, it's very, very simple when you're just working with a standard RSS feed. But then you get into certain sites where they have their own namespaces, and obviously SimplePie can't be expected to know the namespaces of all these random sites. So we can extend the item class to allow for this. But first, let's go ahead and get our feed URL. If I come up here, like I said, we're working with blip.tv. If I just click on one of the videos that we've uploaded and I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see here quick links, RSS feed. This will take us directly to the RSS feed. So I'm just going to copy this, come back to Aptana, and within feed URL, I'm just going to paste this. Whoops. Like so. Okay, so now we have a connection. If we come back and I right click and go to view source, you'll be able to see what we have here. Let me find. Well, that's strange. In Safari, it's not displaying correctly. Let me go into Firefox, and this is that same site. And then if I click View Page Source, this is a little bit more traditional of what you're going to find. Now, if we come down and we look, we have all these special tags like iTunes and Blip namespace. If you come to the very top, you'll see these are declared. Right here you see Blip, and then it has that path. Okay, so keep that in mind. But first, let's just get some generic things. For example, let's get, let's take a look. Why don't we get the title and the description, okay? So let's come back. If you want a refresher, we're getting the title and the description first. Okay, so I'm going to come back to Aptana, and let's do it right within our container div. So I will do within an h1 tag, and we're going to do PHP feed get underscore title, and then I'm going to do a paragraph tag, and of course we want to echo this out, so make sure we add that in, and we're going to do echo feed get description. Okay, so let's come on back, and we need to view this in the browser. So using Firefox, let's open a new tab, and I'm going to browse to localhost. There it goes, and let's come down, click on Blip TV. Oh, we have a parse error. Let's see, line 13. Oh yeah, close out PHP, of course. That's an easy one. And refresh it again. And now we've successfully pulled in the title and the description. So let's take a quick look at this. We're echoing feed. Feed is this object that we just created. So we set the feed URL. SimplePie grabs this RSS feed, parses it, and then it creates some easy to remember methods that we can use, like get title, get description, get date, get author, things like that. So you can see how easy it is. At the feed level, we're able to grab the title of our RSS feed and the description. So now let's create a loop where we can loop through all of the entries that this RSS feed has and display some information. So we will use a PHP for each statement. So PHP, and we're going to say for each feed, get items. This is another one of SimplePie's methods. Get all of the items in the RSS feed, and we're going to take each one of those and create a temporary variable called item. So for each feed as item, and we're going to use the shorthand. That way we can just use standard HTML. And let's go ahead and close this off. Okay, so now we can add anything we like within here. So let's wrap each item within a div. Div class equals entry. And within here first, let's just get something generic just to see if it's working. Maybe I don't know, the description, perhaps. So we'll do maybe within paragraph tags, we'll do PHP. And now we are going to be working with our new temporary variable, item. So item, and we'll do get description. So you can see we're using get description twice here, but it means different things. Here it's working on a feed level, and here it's working on an individual entry level. So let's come back, and of course we need to echo that out again. Don't know why I keep forgetting that. Come back to Firefox, refresh it, and now you can see it's looped through every single entry in that RSS feed and is displaying the description. Now we can't really do anything with that, but it's just to make sure that we are connecting to the RSS feed correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. So let's say, for instance, we want to grab the image for each of those feeds. So let's come back to view source and take a deeper look here. So here is each item. You can see right all here. And we have this blip namespace, so we can't access them well. But what I do want is maybe this thumbnail source right here. You see it has a link to a thumbnail. I want to be able to grab that. So how can we do that when it has this blip namespace? And the answer is we need to create a new class that extends the item class. So if we come to the very top, you can see here blip right here. We have this URL. We need that. So I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to come back to Aptana and create a new file. So we'll come to our includes folder, and we are going to create a new file. Come down to, whoops. New file, and we are going to name this pretty much whatever we want. Let's call it simplepie_blip.inc. Whoops. Let's try that again. There it goes. Okay, so we have our empty file. So here is SimplePie, and now we've created another one, simplepie_blip.inc. And this is just going to essentially be a PHP file. We're just going to create our new class. So let me open up my PHP brackets. I don't have any color styling for this kind of file extension, but no big deal. So let's go ahead and define, and we need to create a namespace. So let's just create anything we want to call it. I'm going to call it simplepie_namespace_blip. And the value of that is going to be that feed. Or not necessarily the value. Well, yeah, I guess the value is the feed to that specific blip. So now let's do a new class, and we're going to call it SimplePie. Once again, this is whatever I want to call it, SimplePie item_blip. But we do want to make sure that it extends the SimplePie item class. So SimplePie item. Okay, so now we can add specific functions. So if we come back here and look over what we need, let's come back down, and I want to get just a couple for this tutorial. You know, we're not going to make it too advanced, but I think the most important things are to get this thumbnail source, the description, the pure description, and I do want to be able to embed that video. So I'm going to need something right here. Embed lookup that has the unique ID, so I can just link. You see embed URL here? This is the actual path to embed it. But I think I'd be better if I just get this specific key right here. So let's just go ahead and copy and paste this. Thumbnail source, pure description, and embed URL. So I'm going to do, let's first do the thumbnail source. So I'm just going to call this function get thumbnail source. And let's do data, and that's going to be equal to, let me see the best way to teach you how to do this. I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head. We'll do this. Do data equals this, and we're going to run another custom method, which is called get item tags. I'm sorry, not a custom method, a SimplePie method. And we are going to pass in our defined variable right here. So I'm just going to paste that in. And then we want to access the exact name of what it's called. So we'll come down here and we want thumbnail source. Make sure, if you type it, make sure it's the exact same, this lowercase or capital case, whatever. So what I'm going to do here to give you a better understanding is I'm going to copy all of this, and we are going to come back to our main page and paste this into our for each statement. And we can just get rid of this, and we'll do echo. And instead of this, I'm going to change it to item to make sure that we're referring to the item for this iteration. And then new PHP. And of course, since we've created a new file, we want to make sure that we reference it. So let's come up here to require and add another one. Require include /SimplePie blip.imc. Okay, that looks pretty good. So this is going to return an array. So why don't we wrap this within pre-tags just so you can see it a bit better. Sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the browser and refresh it and see what that gives us. Parse error, shoot, come back. Maybe I just need to save this. Come back. Yeah, there it goes. So we have this array. All right, so let me go back. Sorry, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I probably should have created something. Of course, not echo. If we're printing out an array, let's do print r. So at the end, and add that. And come back to our file, refresh the page. Yeah, now we're displaying the contents of our array. So let's take a quick look at what we need to be accessing. You see here, we're going into that tag, and we want to grab this value right here. So we can see it is 0 and then data. So that's what we want for each one, 0 and data. So let's come back, refresh this, go back to our extended class, and we have data equals get this tag, and now let's return the correct path. So let's do return, and we're going to do data, and we're going to get 0, like I said, and data. Okay, so let's come back to our page and see if that worked. Let's go and echo it out. So we can go ahead and get rid of this because we know how blip works. And we're going to do img source. And for now, I'm just going to say image. We can fix that later if we like. And let's add some PHP. We're going to do echo item. And now we can use our custom method. So get thumbnail source. Let me make sure I got that right. Get thumbnail source. Yep, that's right. So copy and paste that just in case. So isn't that pretty cool? We've extended our class relatively easy, and now we can use our own custom methods. Okay, but this isn't going to work exactly like we want, because if we come back and you see here, it doesn't. It's just a relative file name. It doesn't have the full URL, so we need to grab that. So let's come and go back to view source and see where we can grab it from. Yeah, here it is. If you come down to small thumbnail, you can see here a.images.blip.tv/ and then the name of the file. So I'm just going to copy that, come back to my project, and paste that in right after source. And now it should work. So let's go back and we can close that out temporarily. That one too. And refresh the page. And let's see what this brings us. Call the undefined method SimplePie _item get thumbnail source. So let's check that out. So this is going to happen to many people. They're going to get very confused because it worked the one time, but why is it not working now? So let's come back, and the main thing that we need to remember to do is we have to reference this class. So let me copy that, come back, and if you come back here, you'll remember that I had the set item class, and that's exactly what this is for. So let's add it in. Let's return to Firefox, refresh the page. And now, because we've referenced that extended class, we have all of the images. So already we're doing something pretty darn powerful. It's really neat, actually. So now the next step, let's do just a bit of CSS to make it look nice and pretty. So in our CSS file, I've already created a blank default.css. We decided we're not going to use a reset, so I'll go ahead and delete that. And let's go ahead and write some quick styling. Though, to make it a little more entertaining for you, why don't we edit this using the web developer toolbar? But shoot, I'm on a different computer and that is not installed on here. So I'm sorry, we're going to have to do it here. First, everything's wrapped within a container div. So let's get it a width of 960 pixels, your standard width. And I'm going to set the margin to auto and position to relative. This is pretty common for wrapping a container div. Next, we have each one of these items in the RSS feed is wrapped within a div with a class of entry. But I want every image to be a uniform width and height, because you can see here all of them are different, just depending on the size of the image I uploaded. So we're going to float each of these to the left, and we're going to set up just a static width of 150 pixels and a height of 113. This was just, this isn't ideal, but I just measured the width of most of the images and then used that just to keep it easy, because this isn't a CSS tutorial. We want to give the user some feedback to let them know that they can click on the image. So I'm going to change the cursor to a pointer and make sure that there's no border. Okay, next, for that entry div itself, let's give it some padding for each one. So 0, 10 pixels on the bottom, and 0. And then I'm also going to, I'm going to leave this off for now, just to show you what's going to happen. Okay, next, entry P, each paragraph tag, actually never mind, I can get rid of that. I think that should be good for now. Let me go ahead and save it, come back to Firefox, refresh the page, and let's see what we got. Okay, so it's a pretty big mess. But the main thing I want to show you here, and by the way, this is the image for every single screencast ever done for NetTouch and ThemeForest. So this is actually cool for your own project. Many of you guys are always asking me about these videos. You can access them really easily this way, but please still visit the site. You see this thing right here where all of the image, it's kind of doing this ladder, stair step kind of thing? This is kind of a weird quirk. And it's because we have this wrapping div, but then each of the items' images here are floated to the left. So, for example, let's set a background color for our container of red, and then also for our entry, blue. Come back to Firefox, refresh the page, and see what we got. Okay, so there's our container, but here, look how, for some reason, our div classes aren't expanding all the way, and it's because we are floating these images. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's add float left. And if you've ever heard someone refer to a shrink wrapping, this is what they're referring to, and it's going to force the entry class to contain its children. So let's look. Yeah, and now you see how much better that looks, and we're not getting that weird thing. Isn't it weird how just some random property can fix it completely, but it does. Okay, so now we have just kind of a nice look, pretty similar to what I showed you. First thing I notice is we're just pulling in too many. I have no desire to see every single video ever created. You may not. For me, I only want to see maybe the last 20. So how can you do that? This is something many people ask me when doing these kinds of tutorials. And it's all in the for each loop using your standard I variable. So I could do something like PHP, create a variable called I, set that to 0. And then at the end, just before the end of every for each loop, we could do I++. And then we need to check to see maybe if I is equal to 20, then break out of it and do no more. So we'll do that right at the top. And we'll say, if I is greater than or equal to 20, then break. Okay? Let's save that, and of course, close out PHP. Come back to Firefox, refresh the page, and see if I did it correctly. And I didn't. What did I do? I didn't open up PHP, did I? Can you guys tell I'm caffeinated? Save it, come back, refresh the page. Okay, and now you see we have exactly 20, and you're free to maybe set I equal to a variable that you can set up top, whatever you want. I think this works just great. So now what I want to do is when the user clicks on one of these images, I want to add that little video, which is pretty neat. So come back, and of course we should compensate for users that have JavaScript enabled as well as the ones that have it disabled. That's kind of weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyways, let's come back and let's wrap our image within an anchor tag. That way if they click on the image and they have JavaScript disabled, they'll simply just be linked to the blip page. So we'll do href, and I also want to give it a title, and I think that's good. Close out our anchor tag. Okay, so the title, what should the title be? I want, when the user hovers over the image, to grab the title of right here. Okay, so let's see how we can get that. View source. You know what? I thought this was going to be a quick tutorial, but it's looking like it's going to be, you know, a full 30 minutes or so. So where is it? Right here, pure description. We need to get that, but it's got that blip namespace, so we're going to have to create another method in our file. So let's do that. And we will call it function get pure description. And once again, I'm just going to paste that in, and we can grab all of this. So let's just grab that, come down, paste it in. And I'm going to grab this pure description and paste it in place of thumbnail source because that's the tag we want. And it's going to be the same format, okay? So now, grab that, and we come back, and our our title is going to be PHP echo item and get pure description. It's as simple as that. And perhaps we should add the closing quote. Okay, so now we got to get the correct href. So how can we grab that? Let's come back, and we want embed URL. We kind of want this whole thing, but I want a little more flexibility just in case. So I'm just going to grab this embed lookup, grab that ID, and then we'll manually create the path. So let's do embed lookup, and come back, and we're going to create another function. Function get embed ID. Paste that in. Once again, we can just grab all of this info right here, paste it in. Grab that, and now our href, we need to manually create this. Like I said, if you need to, you can just use this embed URL if that'll work for you. But I need blip.tv/play. So href is going to be blip.tv/play/ and then we'll add php echo item get embed ID. Okay, let's see if I did that correctly. Come back, refresh the page. Yeah, and now if you look at the lower left corner of the screen right here, you'll see that, and let's just click on one to make sure it's working. Yeah, and it links it directly. So that alone would work just fine. That's Drew Douglas with our WordPress for Designers series on blog.themeforce.net. Okay, so shoot, closed it out. Let's open it back up. So already we have something really pretty neat, you know, considering this would have taken a lot more time if we hadn't had the benefit of SimplePie. But let's take this a little bit further, and you know, just for fun, this is kind of the end of the tutorial, but we're going to add a bit of jQuery. So before we do so, let me just look over everything and make sure that this is the weirdest thing right here. Whatever. Anyways. Yeah, there we go. I did say that I wanted to change the alt to something a little more relevant. So what can we do there? Let's do PHP, and let's just get the title, and we can use just traditional item get title. Back, refresh the page, and let's hover over it. Yeah, and now you see we're getting that full description, and we have the correct alt tags for our image. All right, so come down. I have imported jQuery. I'm using Google CDN to access it, and I have everything at the bottom just before the closing body tag. And let's get started. So let's just quickly go over what we need to do. We need to listen for when this anchor tag is clicked. And when it is, we're going to grab this href value. We're going to create a new div, append it to the body, position it in the correct spot so it displays the video. So let's listen for when the div with the class of entry, the anchor tag is clicked. And when it is, we'll run a function. And the first thing I'm going to grab is the URL. So the URL is going to be equal to this.href. And then we need to create our embed string. So let's do var, and what should we call it? Embed string equals fine. And we need to actually grab some kind of embed source code. So let's save this and then come back to blip.tv and see what they offer us. Let's open this in a new tab. Pause that. And they have this option when you want to embed it. Let's click go. Now they offer embed code. This actually is not ideal. I don't believe it validates. You'd want to use some kind of object method. This is going to be just fine for this, though. You can replace it if you need to. So we have embed source, blip.tv. Let's just copy all of that and bring it back into our project, and then we'll work on it from there. Okay. So to modify this, we know we don't want to use just the one supplied there. We type application Shockwave width. I don't want it that wide. Let's do 640. You know, your standard 640 by 480. Allow script access, always. Allow full screen. That's just fine. So that looks pretty good. Let's cut that out, and we are going to paste it into our embed string. So var embed string, and make sure that we close this out with a semicolon. But we're not done yet. We need to make sure that we add the correct source code. And you know what? There's all these double quotes. It would probably be best if we use single in this case. Okay, so we want to say the embed source is going to be equal to this URL. So we can do something like this. Got to fix that. Okay, close that out, do add, and we can do URL, then something like that. And I think that should work just fine. So the next step is to create a new element that we can add to the page. So let's do jQuery. And we'll do something like div ID equals video. That'll be the name of it. And what next? Let's append embed string. Okay, so we've created a blank, an empty div, and now we're going to take all of this and append it, insert it in. Next step, I want to, let's also append one more thing. We could add this to the embed string, but it's not too much of a big deal. Let's add a paragraph tag and an X. And that's just going to be for the user to close out the video when they're done. I'll show you a little more later. And now we want to add a bit of CSS as well. A bit of CSS that we can't set in our CSS file. And I'm going to set the left value. And we need to make sure that this video in our CSS file has its position set to relative or absolute. I'm going to do absolute. And let's do get window dot width divided by 2 minus 1/2 the width of this div. And we already know that we set a width of 640. So it's going to be half that. So minus 320. And next I'm going to do top. And this is just going to be some arbitrary value. Let's say 50 pixels from the top of our container div. Okay. So the next step, what I want to do is append it to the body tag. So dot append to body. And that should be good for now. So I might have made a mistake. Let's come back. Oh, of course, we need to add a quick bit of CSS to make the video work correctly. So at the bottom, we'll say video. And like I said, we need to set the position to absolute. Sorry, the Apton is being really weird on this computer. It's just doing some strange things, so sorry about that. And we know we want the width to be 640 pixels by 480, so let's restate that. And next, let's do some styling for that p tag. That is going to be for when the user wants to exit out. So I could have used a span tag as well. And I just know from the top of my head that it needs to be at the very top, right of 0, and I need to set the position in absolute in order to set that. I want a background of the paragraph to be kind of a lighter black. Color is going to be off-white. Padding all around it to give the text some breathing room is 0.3 ems. Font size is 0.9 em. And cursor, of course, is pointer because they are going to be able to click on it. Now that's going to be added with JavaScript, so we don't have to worry if the user has JavaScript disabled. Okay, so I'm going to click on something, and I might have made a mistake, but maybe not. Okay, so you see there, it looked like it was working, but then it directed us to another page. So how come? And it's because we need to disable the default action. So right after the anchor tag right here, let's add something like return false. Disable the default action. Come back, refresh the page, click on another one. And now it's loaded the video just like we want. If I click play,
hello everyone, it
loads our video. But if I click this X that we positioned, nothing's going to happen just yet. We haven't coded that. So let's do that right now. So we could create a new listener for when the p tag within the div with an ID of video is clicked, or we can just continue chaining. So that's what I'm going to do here. So after append to, I'm going to do .children and find the p tag. There's only going to be one, so I don't need to worry about that. And I'm going to say when that p tag is clicked, run a function. And I'm going to say, let's get this .parent .remove. I think that's right. So find the child that's a p tag, and when that paragraph is clicked on, get this, meaning get the paragraph that was clicked, get its parent, meaning get the div with an ID of video, and remove it from the page. I think that's right. Come back, refresh the page, and let's click on diving into PHP. Play. Looks great. Make sure the audio comes in.
Welcome back to
Yep, and if I click on the X, it's removed. Okay, so we can make this much better if we wanted to work on it, but it shows you the basic outline of working with SimplePie and a bit of jQuery to create some really interesting things. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's not quite as organized as some of the tutorials, so I apologize for that. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And as always, please subscribe to our RSS feed at the bottom. And if you're interested, please look into our Plus system. If you have any questions, email nettutsblog@gmail.com. I will see you later. Bye.